gentlemen, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for this devotional. Today we're going to be in Daniel chapter 11. I'm going to read verses 15 through 19. Great text here. Remember, this angelic being has come to be with Daniel. He's explaining to him this vision, all these future events, and then next he says this. He says, then the king of the north, that's Syria, shall come and throw up siegeworks and take a well-fortified city. I'll explain that in a second. And the forces of the south, that's Egypt, shall not stand, or even his best troops, for there shall be no strength to stand. But he who comes against him will do as he wills, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his hand. He shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom. And he shall bring terms of an agreement and perform them. He shall give him the daughter of women to destroy the kingdom, but it shall not stand nor be to his advantage. Afterwards he shall turn his face to the coastlands and shall capture many of them. But a commander shall put an end to his insolence. Indeed, he shall turn his insolence back upon him. Then he shall turn his face back toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and shall not be found. So again, this section declares more of this kind of back and forth between the north, which is the region of Syria, and the south, which is the region of Egypt. And the predominant figures here are a guy named General Scopas from the south and Antiochus Magnus from the north. And we read that Antiochus takes Sidon in Egypt. That's the well-fortified city. Scopas from the south then surrenders as the prophecy declares that he has no strength to stand. Then Antiochus Magnus takes control of Israel, so the land between, called here the glorious land, which sets in motion a few decades of increasing terror for Jews. But to seal the peace deal with Egypt, Antiochus gave his daughter, called here the daughter of women, who we know as Cleopatra from Syria, and she is given to Ptolemy the fifth of Egypt as a wife. And Antiochus from the north hoped that through his daughter Cleopatra, he could gain more control over the land of Egypt, yet his plan did not work to his advantage, it says here, because Cleopatra loved her husband and supported the Egyptian regime. Again, I can't imagine how it felt for Daniel to hear all this information. I mean, he's listening to a prophecy that tells him that Israel, the land between, the land and its people, would become the pawns of sinful leadership around them for hundreds of years. I mean, the coming generations would be the victim of selfishness, of corruption, of war, and of positioning because of nations and national leaders that surrounded them. You know, as I look out at the world today, I don't think much has changed, has it? I mean, the same issues and concerns still surround us. But two responses of the Christian man concern me. First, when we as followers become gripped by this sense of human fear that our state or our nation or our world is falling apart. Fellas, we've been falling apart for a long, long time. I mean, Daniel's world was falling apart. And Gabriel's telling him that it would continue indefinitely. The second thing that concerns me is when we look to human leaders to provide us with salvation. Fellas, no human leader is going to provide you with salvation. Only Jesus does. He's the Savior and no one else. And we have to remember that when we have this inclination to put our hope in anything or anyone else, we've got to stop that. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by all the sin and the corruption in this world, you just got to remember this, that God is in full command of the greater story. No man determines this, even though it looks like they do. And in the end, He, God alone, will be victorious. So do your part and just keep the faith. I love you guys. I pray this blesses you. If it has, share it with someone else, and I'll see you right back here again.